Each year, mankind endures the winter while I stay here, because he tricked me long ago. Even Zeus was powerless to change it. He'll trick you too, musician.
Still Orpheus played on, but the king of the underworld was deaf to the beauty of his music. Persephone was moved by an unbearable sadness.
Everything must die, Orpheus. The people we love most have to die. Even the rocks, the earth itself is eaten away by time. Everything must die, Orpheus.
To live again. People think of death like absence, but absence isn't forever. Not while there is any life left at all in the world. It is only cold on the earth for 6 months.
Death is unimpressed.
Husband, I pray to you, I am begging you, give up this soul to Orpheus.
Very well, little musician. Take your bride. Take her to the upper world. But always walk ahead of her. And do not once look back to see if she is following. For if you turn to look at her, she will be mine once more. You hear me?
Imagine the love of his life behind him, and yet he must not look at her. With every step that he took, he listened. But the shades of the dead make no sound, and he could not hear her tread behind him. He walked, grim as death itself, on and on through the wastes of the underworld towards the 9-looped river Styx. By the time he reached Charon's boat, he had started to doubt that Eurydice was behind him.
Don't ask me questions. Don't sing. Don't remind me of the world. I have my duty, that's enough.
Eurydice, give me a sign. Just breathe. I can't hear you.
Don't look round!
Oh, how he longed to. How he longed to. As he started up the steep track that leads back to the world's light, he kept his eyes on the ground. He clenched his fists hard and willed himself not to think of her. It wasn't far. Ahead of him, he could see the daylight. If only he could believe that she was behind him. That the silence of her death was not a real silence, but had been redeemed by music. He was almost at the entrance of the cave that leads to Hades, and he could hear the birds singing outside.
And they walked out into the sunlight and were happy ever after.
They didn't. They didn't. They didn't. It's always just when you think you have things in your grasp that you close your fingers and find they've gone. Because when we're in love, it's our hearts that guide us and betray us all the time. Orpheus could bear it no longer. He turned, and her soul fled back to Hades. He had lost Eurydice forever. Orpheus went out alone. He went back to the land of his people and sat like a man who was dead already. And the women gathered round him. They felt his pain, but they begged him to play, for his music brought rain, made crops grow.
No more music. Ever.
What happened?
If you could have heard that sound, that hateful, ugly sound. A sound that could make women barren, stop love before it started, on and on and on, day after day. And the women came to him from the fields, knowing they must end this deathly noise. They circled round him and beat their tools upon the ground.
They're really wild, those women. What did they do? What are they doing to him?
They tore his body limb from limb. They cast its fragments onto the river, and his head floated out to sea, to the island of Lesbos. And his head still sang her name, will always sing her name, Eurydice. And some people say that the wild women were turned into trees, where they stood. But that was the last time that trees had souls, and that from that day, there was nothing in oaks or limes or silver birch but woody silence. But Orpheus's head spoke prophecies, and the love that he had had for Eurydice was never forgotten, never will be forgotten, as long as there is life. So maybe love is stronger than death.
And we've got his lyre. It's here.
My lyre must always play, for without music we are nothing. We need the shapes out of nothing, tunes out of silence, love out of hate, music that lasts forever.